It's the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, the Detroit Lions improved to 12-1 last week as they defeated their division rivals, the Green Bay Packers, 34-31 in a spirited game at Ford Field last Thursday night. The Lions will welcome to Ford Field the 10-3 Buffalo Bills on Sunday afternoon in what could be a Super Bowl preview. The Lions lead the NFC now, but only have a single-game lead over the Philadelphia Eagles and division rivals, the Minnesota Vikings. We'll discuss the Packers game, the Bills game, and more next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. And welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Brzezinski Drew, and it is December 9th on a Monday. And I'm joined by the Uper himself, Brad Harrison, the pride of WMU, Western Michigan University. How about those Bronco hockey players, huh? How about that Bronco hockey team?
Keep it going, man. You love seeing that top 10 rankings. What are they, fourth or fifth? What was the last thing you've seen?
They were seventh or sixth. Michigan was fifth, and they split with them. And Michigan, I think, is still a spot ahead of them. And Michigan State's number one. So the state of Michigan has three teams in the top 10 in hockey right now. So it's
now we were on campus a long time ago, Dave, a long time ago. And when we were there, well, I guess this is probably after we graduated. I recall when Kathy Beauregard became the athletics director, they put a whole program together of, the hockey excellence was her plan, right? And what is a realistic sport where the Broncos could win a national title? And she had it for hockey, and there's a path forward there. It's been I'm excited for those Broncos.
It's awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah, they're going to get that new arena.
Ooh, now that's looking beautiful too. I saw that we've looked at the artist renditions and stuff. It's pretty nice. Pretty nice. Lawson's a cool place, but they're going to get an upgrade for sure. Hey, brother, but we're talking Lions football today, so let's just get cracking right now. Let's talk about that game last week against the Green Bay Packers. And I know you were enjoying it. We all enjoyed it, but it's nice to beat the Packers twice. But, man, that was a tight game as we expected. But talk about how you felt about that one.
No, it's what we should come to expect right now with these two teams. We should expect a win, and we should expect the games to be tight because they just don't have the experience that we have on that roster. They don't have the coach we have on the sidelines. And it all kind of showed glaringly Thursday night. Man, we're sitting here on a Monday. I don't know. It feels like a long time ago, even just Thursday. But just a fantastic day in the Motor City. I'm so proud of the fans and how they showed out again. I don't know how folks are affording these tickets. I guess it pays to have season tickets because I think people are selling their set or for the same price they buy the whole season for. I mean, it's a unbelievable hot ticket. So as it should be.
And that makes a lot of sense, what you just said, seriously. But 34-31 Lions win. They're 12-1. And again, it's the best start ever by a Lions team, and it continues, right? So sky's the limit at this point, brother. And I was looking at going back to our fandom, really 1980 was when it really started, right? And looking at the best teams we've seen, and realistically, this team already is top three already. Now, what they do in the postseason is going to dictate whether they can bump that 91 squad out or even bump last year's squad out, which only means one thing: Super Bowl. And we'll talk about next week's game first. We don't want to put the cart before the horse, but this team's definitely primed and ready to go. And here's the thing. It was a close game, absolutely. And the Green Bay is when you say that, I agree with you. But then I look at, LaFleur is a good coach. That's a very talented Green Bay team. That defense that's one of the best defenses they've had in a long time. For a long time, that team lived and died with Aaron Rodgers. If they gave up 30, they were going to get 33. He was going to do enough to win ball games every time. And now that defense is really stellar. And it reminds me of back in the day when they had Reggie White and company, those kind of defense. I'm not saying they're that good, but they're very solid. And They gave Detroit fits up front, and it's tough to do that. But again, they handled it. But still, they were a difficult. And then even in the first half, their offense didn't play well at all. Talk about this is strange, and I'm a little concerned about this. The last two games, the last two division games they've had, the Lions had Chicago on Thanksgiving. They were back-to-back in Green Bay last Thursday. First half, Lions dominate. Second half, it's just, they're going toe-to-toe in the middle of the field right there. Are you concerned at all about that? How the Lions have been able to dominate statistically in the first half of games, and then kind of have to dogfight in the second?
I'm not because of what we're getting from our opponent. This is their Super Bowl when they're lining up against us. Think about how many teams have lost the game after they played us this year, right? Like every NFL team that has taken on the Detroit Lions are giving Detroit everything they have. And it's a measuring stick for our opponents. So I'm not surprised that that these, when we're playing a quality opponent, this thing isn't turning into 52-6. That this is something that is a pride scenario. These coaches are looking ahead. Even I was surprised. Like I was listening to some of LaFleur's post-game comments about some of the decisions he made, and he was referencing the game prior. Why did you take the kickoff? You typically defer. Well, I remember what happened back home when the Detroit came up here, and like, are you serious, man? Like, what do we say? Live rent free? Oh, baby.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, baby. We are there. And so it doesn't surprise me because we played a quality opponent. Even Chicago's a quality opponent on the defensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're getting everybody's best, and so far, so good.
Now here's the thing: Lions give up 31. They win with a last-second field goal from Bates. The thing is, Jair Alexander didn't play for the Packers. That's a loss. The Lions were without Aiden Hutchinson, and will be for the whole season, right, until late in the playoffs. Aleem McNeil went out in the second half with a head injury, didn't return. DJ Reader did not play. Marcus Davenport's been out. So
you got to keep going, man. You got to keep.
But here you go.
There's Barnes.
Your entire starting front four did not play that entire game or didn't play at all. Linebackers, Jack Campbell, the only linebacker of the top four core linebackers that actually was suited up. And even Jalen Reeves-Maybin, the number 5 guy, the special teams captain, hasn't been playing for a while. He's got a shoulder injury. Guy stepped up. The secondary was the most intact of the bunch, but Brian Branch went out later in that game. Mm-hmm. So, I get it, Alexander. Cry me a river. I don't want to hear it. And you still didn't win that game. And Green Bay gave him hell. Let's face it, 7 of those guys didn't know the playbook for the most part. And they're like, it's like school.
I love what Dan said leading up to it, right? We got to get that playbook where they can just play fast.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's keep it simple. Keep it simple and play to the guy's strengths. You got Jamal Adams for a reason. Put him in that role. Let him roll. Darius Smith obviously has had a couple weeks under his belt, but we know what he's supposed to do, and he's doing a good job of it too. By the way, he's getting to the quarterback. What a pickup! And so let's talk about the injuries a little bit here. It's because it's a big narrative. Certainly from this game coming up. Yep, there's our boy Erwin R. Fletcher. We had the cast from MASH on there last week, so it's going to be kind of the running gag here. If we put Quincy MD on there, it's not going to be good because he was a corner. So we don't want that. We want to bring guys back. But in all seriousness, though, let's talk about who we might see coming back in the next game before we dig into the Packer game a little more. Decker didn't play on the offensive side of the ball either, Brad. What are you hearing about Taylor Decker right now? Is he going to be available for this Sunday?
Yeah, it's still up in the air. I do like that we have these extra days between the game. I don't think sitting here on Monday, if you ask Dan on the show, he wouldn't be able to answer that question. We obviously are a different running team with him. Dan Skipper has filled in admirably.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about Dan Skipper. I mean, go back to Hard Knocks. He got cut. He was one of the last cuts. What else do I have to do, coach? There's nothing else you could have done, Skip. Quote, unquote. The talent's just better now. He had to get up, leave his book, shake their hand, and walk out of that room. That was a heartbreaking moment on that TV show. To starting every snap against the Packers on Thursday and having one of the most memorable puke scenes in the history of post-game press conference or press, whatever those things are. Whatever you're doing over there, Skip, keep it up.
I love that.
I remember when Kirby caught Aaron Rodgers' last throw at Lambeau Field for the Green Bay Packers. I was there. And the pandemonium that ensued after that game. And I distinctly remember Dan Skipper standing in the end zone, leaning against the goalpost and just taking it all in. And my thought was, because this is it for Skipper. This is it. He made something of himself and came out on top that was 2 years ago, man. That was 2 years ago. To do what he did Thursday. But, okay, you asked me about Decker. I still prefer to have Decker playing. We're going to be better with Decker and have Skip coming in and reporting eligible.
Well, yeah, and you're right about that, because then often that's like a double tight end situation, and they have a Dan Skipper as your other tight end. That's impressive, especially if he's lining up on Penei Sewell's side. Oh, my goodness. I mean, it's good luck stopping that. So, yeah, that's one of the main – not only – obviously, Taylor Decker is a very accomplished left tackle, so you want him back. But, yeah, Dan Skipper plays that role extremely well.
It adds a lot to the offense.
Yes, it does. They're still very good, with Skip at left tackle, but they'll be better with Decker in there. I think he's got a chance to come back in this one. And then
this isn't a season type of situation. This is just getting him right for the final push.
Exactly. So, let's see what happens there. Now, the defensive side of the ball, I would say we're probably hopeful McNeil and Branch will be back. Especially McNeil. It wasn't a concussion. So,
I heard today he was, in the, trending the right way. And it's the Onzarique's, when you think about who's coming back, right? Like,
need him. He's had a good year. And then, Adams now will have a week to digest, actually more than that, 10 days to digest some more playbook. That's going to be helpful. That's going to be key. Davis gets another 10 days to rest up. He played well in that game. But yeah, getting that defensive line healthier. Reader, I don't know. I mean, that shoulder injury was awkward looking. I don't know.
And he didn't come to us at 100%.
No, exactly.
He's dealing with some things. So great when he's healthy. Glad he's here, but I don't know about counting on that.
Exactly. So bottom line, they'll be healthier. I mean, bottom line, they're going to get a couple guys back. We hopefully more, but you would hope McNeil, Decker, Branch will be back.
Pascal.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, hopefully Onzarique, if we can get those guys back, now you got some rotational depth going. But that guy O'Connor stepped up big time in that game, right? I mean, and then Muhammad has stepped up big. He's played well. I mean, these guys, and Zadarius Smith has been as advertised. I mean, he's already got 3 sacks for him.
And the little things, right? Like just announcing the defense to the crowd before the game. Cool, man.
Very cool. So, bottom line though, Coach Campbell took a lot of heat. Not a lot of heat, but he's taken some heat. Basically, people, I get the impression that a lot of media pundits and social media experts are basically saying he was lucky he got 5 out of those 6 fourth downs. Now, here's the thing. At face value, no, I would not go for it on 4th down in my own 30. But when I mean, how many times do I got to read the list of injured players that didn't play in that game? I mean, in Goff and Cam, actually, Goff really said it first. He's like, that was the plan from Monday. We were going to play this way, this game, because
surprise anybody.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe we were surprised, but not really. I was only surprised by the 4th and 30, and I was a little surprised he went for it at the end. But then when they called time and to kind of regroup, I said, I get it. I totally get it, because if they get a field goal here, you're giving Love like 40 seconds of clock. He's probably going to get them in field goal range. He's going to get them in field goal range.
Yeah, because you get the ball on the 30-yard line right now. You kick off into the end zone. You get the ball on the 30. What's that, 2 throws?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they had no timeouts, but it was fascinating. So shout out to my son, Gavin, who's able to sync Lomas, TJ, and Dan Miller with our video downstairs here.
Cool.
So we do, like, we listen to I don't listen to the TV broadcast. I listen to those 3 guys, and the end of that game, Lomas got to take it 4th and you got to kick it. You got to get these points. And he was going on, and TJ said, I respectfully disagree, Lomas. You can't leave a second on this clock. And that was the decision that was on the sidelines. So, yeah, it made us all sit up, stand up, pay close attention.
Yes.
And it worked. But I was thinking, I never heard anybody say this, and I've been running this 4th down and on our own 30 through my mind, and I haven't heard anybody say this, so I don't know if this was part of the thought process at all. Mm-hmm. But the way our defense was not stopping Green Bay, why not just give them the ball on the 30 and let them score a touchdown within 2 minutes? If you would have punted and gave them the ball on their 10, they would have just marched down the field
and killed about 6-7
minutes.
Yeah, 8 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Then you have less time to do what you got to do. Like I said, that's kind of a loser mentality, and I doubt that happened on the sidelines. I think it worked out in our favor because, yeah, go ahead, score a touchdown. We're going to go score a touchdown too, and guess what? We're going to take some more time off this clock because that's exactly what happened.
And not to mention, you bring up a good point, because I mean, certainly in the red zone, you actually have a better chance. As aggressively as the Lions do rush the passer now, without Aiden Hutchinson in there, they bring the house a lot, and I like it. They're saying, yeah, we get that we're banged up, but we're going to force you to take your first or second read. We're not going to allow you to check down. We're not going to allow you to scramble. And I mean, obviously these plays are going to happen. Nothing's perfect, but at the same time, they're saying, okay, we're going to cover you man to man. Yeah, you got a shot, but you're going to have to do it quick because we're coming. and they have
no other choice.
Exactly.
we gotta go.
Yeah. And you got to admit, I mean, the fact is the Lions have one of, if not the best offensive lines in football. They have, I'm going to say, the best right tackle in football in Penei Sewell. Kevin Zeitler's, I think, it's still in the top 3 in Pro Football Focus ratings. And you have one of the best centers in football, in Frank Ragnow. It wasn't that big of a gamble to run up the right side to get 1 yard with David Montgomery. It really wasn't.
That's our best chance. That's our best chance on any play.
Yep. It just
in the game of football is to pick up a yard.
Yeah.
And Zeitler.
And if you can't get a yard, then maybe you didn't deserve to win. Yeah. Right. But they got a couple of yards, and they were able to do what they needed to do. Man,
I'll be fascinated to see what NFL football looks like in 2 years, because there's a lot of things that Dan Campbell is doing.
Oh yeah, it's going to get benchmarked. It's going to get benchmarked. Oh, absolutely. The game has changed dramatically. Looking at statistics, I mean, it was a running league before, and I mean, to get 1,000 yards when we were kids in the early, like 1980, 81, to have 1,000-yard season, that was big. It was huge. That's 67 yards a game. Well, now obviously there's an extra game, but it's almost like 1,000 yards is a good season now. But to get 1,300 or more, now you've had a good year. Now you've had a Pro Bowl caliber year. I mean, right now, when you look at the line statistically, Jahmyr Gibbs is already over 1,000 yards. And this is what's fascinating to me, Brad. Gibbs has 178 carries, has 1,016 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns this year. Montgomery, 180 carries, only 2 more carries, 771 yards, but 12 touchdowns. And then they both, their receiving statistics are almost identical. 34 catches for 312 for Gibbs, 32 catches for 310 for Monty, 2 touchdowns for Gibbs in the air, none for Monty. So they both have 12 touchdowns. They're both over 1,000 yards in all-purpose yards. We thought we had something with Joy Bell and Reggie Bush about 10 years ago.
Yeah, they were good. We did.
They were good.
It wasn't this. It wasn't this.
No, this is I mean that we saw Barry Sanders' whole career. We saw Billy Sims' whole career. Outstanding players. I've never seen 2 backs in a backfield like this. This is crazy. I mean, I know other teams have had situations, but this is awesome. I mean, talk about those 2.
Oh man. Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about picking Jahmyr Gibbs and the uproar.
Oh yeah.
The uproar.
They won't ever say that again. They'll never admit to it. But
let's think about what these next 2 years are going to look like. There's other teams that are going to go get this running back. They're going to try to find Jahmyr Gibbs, even when they got David Montgomery, because this is the blueprint for success in the NFL. And to have them with the contract situation, both of them are in a rookie deal, an extended free agent contract, unreal. Like, it's not just what you see on Sunday, it's what they developed off the field with these contracts and how they've gone about it, and the right mindset, because we didn't know David Montgomery would have the attitude that he did when a running back was drafted in the first round after you sign. I guess who wanted out? DeAndre Swift.
Mm-hmm.
His agent called Brad Holmes, get him out of here. Oh, real? Oh, okay.
Cool.
Go to Chicago, or I guess went to Philly, and now whatever. And he's good. Whatever. He's got his own set of talent. But
absolutely,
I am absolutely thrilled with the way this is set up. I love their attitude. They care for one another. I think that is an incredible testament to how they were raised and who they are as men. And believe me, I'll bet they try to outdo one another. There is a competition, healthy competition.
Yeah,
I'd have to believe.
Absolutely. And yeah, they seem like, I mean, honestly, they seem like best friends. I mean, it's awesome. That's what's really cool about this team. In 3+ years, almost 4 years now, we've not heard a lot of dissension. We've not heard a lot of, I mean, J-Mo's been the only one who's made headlines, and not good, but not catastrophic either. Right. I mean,
well, here's the thing with J-Mo too, right? Like, yes, he's made mistakes that, upset me as a fan. I'm a little older, so I understand things that young kids don't, because we're old now, Drew. But I have not heard one of his teammates come out and criticize J-Mo. Now, they might have done it behind closed doors. I don't know. But that says something about a culture of a team too. We're going to take care of this business in-house.
Absolutely.
And even if Jameson is young and is in a learning mode, he's got the right people around him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got absolute pros around him. I mean, St. Brown, and that is just the most driven, focused athlete you're going to find. I mean, that guy uses every nook and cranny he can find to use as motivation to get it to win. And it's not underhanded. He's just everything. It's all fuel. It's all fuel, man. I love it. I mean, but yeah, a guy like that. I mean, let's talk about those guys. St. Brown, 81 catches for 863 yards on this season, 9 touchdowns. Now he's been targeted 98 times, so he's catching the ball, about 75% of the time. And he had a 30 catch streak there, 30 targets, 30 for 30 right there from Jared Goff, and that's amazing.
Doesn't happen.
No. Now here's J-Mo. He's only caught 39, he's been targeted 63. He's missed a couple games because of suspension. Still 710 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's going to eclipse 1,000 yards. He is going to eclipse 1,000 yards. They're going to have 2,000-yard receivers, 2,000-yard backs. I mean, hell, Gibbs might hit 1,500. Honestly, Jahmyr Gibbs might have one of the best seasons this side of Barry Sanders we've seen as a Lions fan. I mean, that's impressive stuff. And then even Laporte, they started out very slow and then got banged up. He still got 445 yards and 5 touchdowns on 36 catches. The offense has been distributed very well. I think Goff completed what was the statistic that he completed 5 passes to 6 different players?
At least 5 passes, because I think it was Patrick and there was another one that had 6.
Yeah.
5 completions to 6 different players has never happened in the history of the NFL.
Yep, Montgomery, Gibbs, Saint, Jamo, and Laporta, and then Tim Patrick. So it was 6 players with at least 5 catches. Unreal. And Tim Patrick, 2 touchdowns. He got the game ball. And that's a guy who hadn't caught a touchdown in 2 years due to injuries and stuff. I mean, again, Brad Holmes has a nose for talent. He finds it. You look at the draft picks. You look at the undrafted free agents. You look at the free agent signings. I mean, think about last year, we were lamenting losing Jamal Williams.
Yeah.
Understandably, 18 touchdowns on the ground and you lose him.
Right. He was a big part of this.
Absolutely. And and then his attitude was infectious. I mean, he fit in very well in Detroit. Monty's picked the ball up and run with it literally. So it's great. I mean,
well, you think about this too. You mentioned Brad Holmes and you mentioned who he brings in, and anybody can take players off practice squads, right? Like those are open for. So he's got a lot of options. Think about the people he doesn't get. He knows he's leaving a lot of people on the side because he knows exactly the kind of player that fits into the system.
Yeah.
To have Quan Alexander do what he did and Jonah Williams do what he did. And it's not, that's Jamal Adams. That's just having a great nose for all the rosters and what's out there and knowing, Adams will fit in here. He's not the same guy that played in Seattle and et cetera, but he knows, he knows who to take and who not to take. And that's as impressive as anything you can't just pick one thing about the Detroit Lions and say, well, this is why they're winning. This is why they're 12-1. Here's a laundry list of reasons they're 12-1.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great point. And you're right. And it starts, and it's ironic because, Campbell was brought in, with Holmes obviously, and then Spielman as well, but it started at the draft table, but it's all of those things. It's Dan Campbell's staff. He's people say, well, I don't think he's a great coach. He takes stupid chances. Well, I got 12 reasons to tell you you're full of shit. Excuse my language, but sorry. I mean, if you've watched this, if you're truly invested in this team as a fan and you've watched every game, you understand why he's been doing it. Now I heard Teddy Bruschi say, okay, enough now. You needed to do it before and you were successful with it almost to the Super Bowl, but now you don't need to do that anymore. Teddy, look at the injury list, Teddy. Hell, Teddy, you could play on this team maybe right now. I mean, they need help, but they're getting help, and these guys are stepping up. It's amazing. Like Alexander, they signed, they get him in there. He made plays. David Long, he's playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about, and it's funny. I was talking to my father offline, and I said, this team, I said this last year, and it's recorded. I said, this team's special, and I feel it. And I know Campbell said it too. I mean, just as a fan, the 84 Tigers, the 89 Pistons, and the 2002 Red Wings, I felt this way going into the season that almost like you just knew. You kind of knew. And I feel this way about this team. I'm going to stick by that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, whatever. But I'm going to stick with it. And in the 84 season, people always talk. Yeah, they know the big names: Trammell, Lou, Morris, all Parrish, Petrie, Willie Hernandez, but they forget there was a Sid Manji, a Rupert Jones, a Rusty Kuntz, a Bill Scher, a Doug Bear, Aurelio Lopez. Some of those guys were on the team at the start. Some of them, like Rupert Jones, got added mid-season. There was Marty Castillo. He knocked in the game-winning RB. I think he scored the game-winning run in Game 3 of the Royals series to win the pennant. It takes the whole team, and you
Larry Herndon hitting home runs.
Oh yeah, beautiful thing, great player. It's just, but you added pieces, and they started out red hot, and they got the national media attention right off the hop. The Lions have had national media attention for probably a good 2 years now, courtesy of Hard Knocks. That Hard Knocks really elevated their brand, and go figure, you would think it would. Obviously, it didn't hurt to finish 22 the way they did, and then have the 23 season go that way. And now they're all over the place. It's beautiful. Did you ever think we'd see that? I mean, honestly, did you ever think we'd see that?
No, we'd search it out, on Sports Center just to see if, they'd get a mention. It was a highlight, right? It was a Barry thing, or it was a joke. The Mariucci, Marinelli, Morningweg joke era. So no, I mean, this is, and I get people act like you've been there. We haven't. I'm gonna act this way because we hadn't been there. So we're gonna act the way we're gonna act. I treat every win like a Super Bowl win, man. I'm not sitting here. I'm not gonna let anything bring me down.
I agree.
No way. I'm not going to let this thing become a negative because this is a blast. This is an absolute blast. Was I standing when, how many seconds? 47 seconds left and it's fourth. Well, what? Yes, I couldn't sit down anymore, but I wasn't, it worked. And if it didn't work, it would have been terrible, right? But it did. So on to the next game.
Exactly.
Guess what? You left Green Bay gasping for air. Gasping for air. They thought they'd get that ball back. They thought, dude, the floor looked just like Eberflus did at the end of that game. He no chance, man. I told some friends over here, I said, guys, I've been there. I've been there with Jim Caldwell. Good man, good coach. It got too fast for him. When the pressure really hit.
Yeah,
that's what they got. I ain't worried about that. I ain't worried about that green and gold team, but that's what they got right now. They got a guy that cannot handle that speed and pressure. And he's a good coach.
It surprised me.
He ain't there.
No, that's a great, because when I remember when they went for that field goal a couple of years ago where Rodgers wanted to go for it, and he's a diva obviously, but nonetheless, I mean, they disagreed and he didn't trust his quarterback in that situation.
Yeah.
I get it. Again, Campbell's mentality was born out of necessity. They were an 0-10-1 team in 2021. It was necessary to do everything you could to keep the ball on the offensive side and try to score some points. And it still is, but now it's kind of their MO. And they've been the important thing though is the players have embraced it. Mm-hmm. Teddy Bruschi, what would happen if Dan Campbell does a 180 about face and said, we're going to play traditional conservative football now, just because? Yeah. Like what the hell happened? What's wrong? Again, from the outside looking in, I totally get it. I mean, it's unconventional, and let's face it, you've got a hell of a shot of being correct because at some point it won't work. It's not going to work 100% of the time.
Nope.
And people hung the NFC Championship on him for that. Well, there may be some credence to it, but that's not the only reason they didn't win that game. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. So you don't abandon the game plan just because you finally got to where you perceive is where you need to be. So, and
let's not forget what Dan Campbell is. He's a tight end. He's an offensive football player.
You know it.
Let's not get it twisted. I mean, this guy's offensive minded.
the fact is they have a philosophy and they have a game plan in place that everyone has bought into and embraced, and that is winning. That's a winning concept.
Right. Got us 12-1 in 2024.
So will
the
it
NFC
get us
championship game in 2023?
You got it. Now, will it get us to 13-1? Let's talk about it. The Buffalo Bills will come to town, and this is a hell of a football team, Brad. And they did lose yesterday to the LA Rams, 44-42. Now they were losing by I think 17 at one point. So this team is extremely dangerous. We know that. Let's break down the Buffalo Bills a little bit. So I happen to bring my stats with me, Uper, so I'm going to be reading some off here. And Josh Allen is very eerily similar to Jared Goff. 3,000 yards already, 3,033. He's completed 64% of his passes. He's got 23 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. So Josh Allen hasn't made a lot of mistakes this year. He's also got 9 rushing touchdowns with 416 yards. He is a stud. He's as good as Jordan. I think he's probably a better scrambler than Love. He's a bigger quarterback than Love, believe it or not, and he's a more efficient quarterback. So he's going to be a handful back there. Let's talk about Josh Allen. How do the Lions at least contain him?
Yeah. What a load. Keep him in the pocket. Pressure, you got to stay in front of him. You got to pressure up front. Maybe get Smith and whoever else is lined up on our end to get around that edge. But that is a question that is difficult to answer, Dave, because Josh, there's not many like Josh Allen. And, they've been at it for a while, right? Like, can you get a little doubt creeping into the brains of a Buffalo Bill player and coach? I think so. They've had their fair share of ghosts that have crept up on them here in the recent history. So, you've just got to keep the pressure going. I'm glad this game's in Detroit. That gives us an advantage over being on the road against this team. But, it really doesn't matter what I think about how to stop Josh Allen. I'm glad Aaron Glenn is tasked with that, and he'll get our best. Josh Allen will get our best.
Yeah, I agree with you. They have to contain him. It's going to help to have McNeil back, and hopefully they'll have DJ Reader back, or at least maybe Onwuzurike, and clog that middle up a little bit more. One thing Love was able to do in the second half of that game, they did a good job of collapsing the pocket on him, but he was able to slip. He was able to step up in the pocket and even slip through between the guard and center, and was able to take off sometimes and make play. They're going to have a hard.
Allen missing the things Love missed.
No,
I don't see it, man. He's just a better quarterback.
So part of it's going to be, obviously the offense is still going to have to shoulder the load a bit here. Regardless of who they get back, their Lions are still going to have key players out for this game. They're not going to be in. So at the end of the day, the Lions' best defense is going to be their offense again. But to contain Allen, you're not going to stop him. I think the best thing to do is certainly to try to contain him, make him throw from the pocket, and trust your secondary. Now they have some good weapons out there in the receivers. Khalil Shakir's their number one receiver right now, 735 yards, 3 touchdowns. Keon Coleman, the rookie from the former Spartan, right? The former Florida State Seminole, former Spartan. He's got 3 touchdowns on the year with 417 yards. Now Dalton Kincaid is their top tight end, but he's been out the last couple weeks. So he's been questionable the last couple weeks and hasn't been able to suit up. I'm half expecting him to play, but they've also got Dawson Knox there too. So they got 2 pretty damn good tight ends. They've also got Amari Cooper, who they picked up I think he's been on the team for 5 games now. This will be his 6th game with Buffalo. So they have a trio of receivers who are pretty talented. Talk about how to defend those guys.
Yeah, I do think that controlling the ball, we're probably going to be going for it on 4th down again more times than maybe Teddy Bruschi cares for.
Yeah,
because we got to keep Buffalo off the field. We're going to have to match their scoring. Let's let's get them settling for some field goals while we're scoring touchdowns, because I do think you're just got enough speed. James Cook running the ball. That it's all formidable. I mean, this is I think you started this show off by saying this could be a Super Bowl preview. Well, yes, because of who Buffalo is and what they're bringing to Ford Field. So I do think your point is spot on about controlling that ball in long drives. And if we can't run the ball, it's screen passes and passes out to the flat. But you're going to have to match Josh Allen and James Cook and company.
Yep.
That's the way I see it.
Absolutely. And Cook, 723 yards rushing, 11 touchdowns this year. So he's had every bit the season that David Montgomery really has had. He's got 204 yards receiving too. He's a very good running back. They don't have a Jahmyr Gibbs to complement him, but Josh Allen kind of does that as well. Ray Davis, another nice back, has got 342 yards. So they've got guys. They're a very talented offense. And I watched a lot of that Rams game. I watched a lot of that Cardinal game. They came back as week one. The Buffalo Bills are very similar to the Lions offensively. They can beat you in many, many ways. Obviously, Allen's far more mobile than Jared Goff, but Jared Goff has more weapons and there's more depth at the running back position. So a little different, but at the same time, they're both going to score. Now, defensively, the Bills, it's strange because look, if you look at them, their record are 10-3. Now they've allowed 268 points only on the year. The Lions have allowed 234. The Lions are the best team in football defensively, but the Bills aren't far behind. Now the Lions have scored 417. They've scored 397. They play very similar, but here's a key stat. They're undefeated at home 6-0. They're 4-3 on the road. Where the Lions are undefeated on the road still at 6-0 and are 6-1 at home. The Lions don't care where they play, but I'm telling you what, Buffalo playing in LA, I saw a lot of Bills fans there. I mean, it's LA, go figure. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of blue in the stands Sunday, but it ain't gonna be blue and red. And the Bills Mafia will travel, but it's a tough ticket. It's a tough
I
ticket.
saw something online about the Detroit takeover from the Bills Mafia. They'll be there. I mean, it's easy, right? Like we can get to Buffalo. Buffalo can get to Detroit.
6-hour drive.
Easily. Yeah. So great fan base.
They are.
They're as desperate as anybody for the winner, and they've had some heartbreak. So I do think, right, like for the Rams to do what they did, what? So I think there's some doubt that you can plant some doubt in the minds of a Buffalo Bill, and that's got to happen somehow. And maybe it's a Maurice Alexander punt return from Sam Martin. Welcome back, Sam. He's good, right? We like Sam Martin.
Oh yeah. He got too expensive.
Yeah,
that's how good he was. No, seriously, I mean, he got too expensive.
Yeah,
they replaced him with Jack Fox, and Jack Fox
draft this guy. I guess I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Maybe it's something like it's probably got to be that, right? Like there's going to have to be somebody's got to make a play that just flips the game somehow. And it could be a punt return.
The closer the game is, and that's going to favor the Bills in my mind. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, the Lions need to have. I think the key will be the Lions need to get a 2-score lead. And I'm not saying 2 touchdown, but let's say a 9 or 10 point lead. So they've always got command. The ball will end up in Goff's hands at the end to try to make a play and get a score. That's what happened in the Packer game. And that's what happened in the Bears game. They always had control of it, even though there was a push. They still maintained control of that scoreboard. Now, I'm not saying just the lead, but just in the sense that even if the game got tied, they were going to get the ball back with time to do damage, and they were able to do so. Now, defensively, like Gregory Rousseau, 6.5 sacks this year, AJ Epinesa, 5, and Von Miller, 4. They have a very good defense up front. Their front 7 are very tough. They get to the quarterback. So, but again, they're playing the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a hard time getting. It's a beautiful thing. Both teams are. I mean, Lions have 14 takeaways, interceptions, and the Bills have 13. That's how close they are. The Bills have spread that out a little more, where the Lions, like Kirby Joseph has 7 of those, Branch has 4 of those, and CD has 2 of them. Not having Hutchinson in the lineup, the pressures and sacks have been a little more diluted, but there's more guys getting to the quarterback, or at least putting pressure on, and that's a good thing. But long story short, this is going to be a hell of a football game, and they're so evenly matched that it's going to come down to, like you said, make a play. Who's going to make a play? And it's going to be a guy like Tim Patrick, or it's going to be a guy like I'm looking at here. It might be a Dawson Knox on their side, or a Ray Davis. It might not be that. It's kind of like a hockey game, right? You're going to shut down your top lines, but then you got to get some secondary scoring. Well, here, same concept. There's going to be other guys that got to step up. You got to like the Lions' depth in that regard against anybody. The Lions are just deep. We wouldn't be having this conversation like this if they weren't, because defensively they'd be getting shredded. But
that's what's interesting, right? Like, where's our mind? Like, our mind is like, how do you attack this off? How do you attack Buffalo? How do you stop Buffalo? How do you attack Buffalo? How do you stop? Like, that's what we're doing. What are they doing in Buffalo? What are they doing in Buffalo?
Oh, but in Buffalo, they're saying we got to keep their offense.
I mean, Jared Goff's throwing to 6 different players. 5 guys are like, they got 2 running backs. They got now Tim Patrick scoring touchdowns, and Sam Laporta is, like, imagine being them, right? Like, we're coming with a load of problems for Buffalo.
I don't have to imagine it. I can just think back about two years and then 38 years back, and it was always like, oh shit, what are we gonna do now? Oh yeah, we're gonna do some things, but how are we gonna stop them? Realistically, every team playing Detroit has got to be like, damn, how do we keep that offense off the field? How do we at least contain them? And even against the defense, now you maybe can say, well, we'll try to exploit the pass a little bit, but they're bringing the house. They're coming, and so it's hard to do. Now, before we get into our predictions for this game, let's talk about how important this game is. Okay, and it's funny. We've had on our show, we say, well, these aren't must-win games. Well, no, you're right. They're in the playoffs. The Lions are in the playoffs already. We know that. So, and this is a non-conference game. Okay. There's 3 more games after this left, and they're all in conference. 2 of them division, at Chicago, at Frisco, and then at home against Minnesota. Those are your final 3 games. So the Lions are only a game up, and we said this in the intro, over Philly and Minnesota. They have the tiebreak over Minnesota for the head-to-head, but they got to play them again. So they're going to, if the Lions lose this game, I believe, will still have the tiebreaker, because even if Philly wins, they're going to play Pittsburgh. That's a non-conference game. I believe the Lions would still have the tiebreaker over them and Minnesota. Minnesota's obvious for head-to-head. The Lions will still have only 1 conference loss. I think Philly has 2. So they still would have the tiebreaker. But folks, why do I say this is a must-win? Well, it's a must-win if you want to get the first overall seed and get the bye week in the first round and host every playoff game. Because imagine if the Detroit Lions are the 5th seed in the playoffs at 14-3, because it damn well could happen. The Minnesota Vikings could end up 15-2 and win this division, and it would automatically put the Lions down to the 5th spot, which means if everyone holds serve, except Detroit, of course, they'll never play another home game this season after that in the playoffs. They'll be on the road the whole time, unless, of course, but even then they wouldn't. They'd be the lowest seeded winner in that scenario. They're not going to host a playoff game.
Well, that scenario is terrible, Drew.
Isn't it? So then when I'm going to ask you the question now, is this a must-win game, Brad? Mm-hmm. And there's no wrong answer.
Well, there is no wrong answer aside from what are your goals. If you're going to go at my approach and every game's a Super Bowl, and yay, let's have a good time, But if your goal is to win the Super Bowl, this is a must-win. You're right. I mean, the home field is just so critical, and it's just outrageous that we have not been able to separate from the Vikings and the Eagles. Like, that's just, it blows my mind that we're in this position. Shout out to those guys, man. Like, Sam Darnold, 5 touchdowns yesterday. Like, are you kidding me? They should have lost that game against Arizona a few weeks ago. I mean, I don't know. You know, Philly, what I'm looking at it here. So yeah, to your point, you know, that's a, you know, they got the game against Pittsburgh. It's at home. You know, that'll be a great game.
And Pittsburgh,
they got to go to Washington. They got to go to Washington the next week.
Okay.
And then it's just nothing but a cakewalk. You've got the Cowboys at home and the Giants at home. So, you know, congratulations of being in that division. So these next 2 weeks for Philly, that's, you know, this is our opportunity to separate. There's 17 games now. So it's you know, they got games to play too.
They sure do, and that's a great point. I'll be honest, you know, looking at the Lions' schedule, you know, we talked about this, I think, off camera before we started. You know, looking at the schedule, these last 4 games are going to be hell, but not as bad now. I mean, when you're looking at it, yeah, this game's going to be absolutely very difficult. We knew that Buffalo is going to be tough. Going to Chicago, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but that's a winnable football game. Going to Frisco on Monday night, that's a winnable game all of a sudden. Because that's a banged up. That's not the same 49er team that went to the Super Bowl last year.
They're done.
And then you come home and play Minnesota, who, at face value, said, "Well, that was the game that you kind of exhale a little bit." Well, now, no, not anymore. It's amazing. Think about this: that Rams team that just beat the Buffalo Bills are on the outside looking in the playoffs right now at 7-6. Can you imagine if that team wins the South? And they could, or excuse me, the West, and they very well could. I think they're only a game back. And the Lions drop to 5th. Guess what you get to do in the first round of the playoffs? Yeah.
I don't want to do it again.
No, thank you.
No.
The Rams are scared. The Rams are scary. They were tough on them in week 1. They're a good football team. That's a very good football team.
Well, I'm looking at Minnesota too. I'm sorry to
go ahead.
Go on a different topic here, but so they got a W coming on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Hosting the Bears.
Yeah.
Then they got to go to Seattle.
Ooh.
Right? And for whatever reason, Seattle is not the same team when they play other teams aside from Detroit. I don't get it. I do not understand the Seahawks, but they're hosting the Minnesota Vikings. And then Green Bay comes to town. Green Bay's fighting for everything they can get their hands on.
You bet.
And then they come to Detroit. So when we start thinking about our schedule, guess what? None of these. This is going to be this is going to be tough on everybody. So handle your business. Handle your business. And if a loss does come up, maybe all these teams have a loss coming up.
That's a good point. If the Lions are going to lose a game coming up, to me, they have to go at least 3-1. And this is the only game they can afford to lose, only because it's an AFC game. Mm-hmm. And that's the only reason. Other than that, they got to win those other 3 games. And unless, to your point, they get some help from Philly and Minnesota by dropping a game or 2. That's the only way. Otherwise, they have to have a mindset that really they need to win all these games. They can't think that this, as a fan, talking about it on a podcast, we can say that, but as a team, they cannot think that way. To your point, they got to win every game. But again, they're 12-1. There's no reason to think that they won't. But obviously, this is a hell of a Bills team coming up here. So let's talk about how we see this one breaking down. Uper, predictions for this one. Let's talk about how do you see it shaking out at Ford Field, and CBS will be there live hosting for the 425 matchup. It's the national game at 425. A lot of eyes will be on it. How do we show out?
Welcome back, Nate Burleson.
Yes,
right? Welcome we love back, him. Nate. He did fine here.
Next nice player
slid out of his front seat and
damn. Man. Shouldn't be eating pizza anyways, Nate.
You shouldn't be eating pizza that late. And have your pizza delivered, Nate. Come on, that hurt us. That hurt us.
You hurt him too.
Oh man! So
Love
welcome
number
back,
13.
Nate. You know, I think we saw the blueprint last Thursday at how you're going to beat Buffalo this Sunday. if I'm not gonna predict a loss when you've won 12 out of 13 because you've proven you've earned my respect, and you're going to figure this out. Aaron Glenn's going to figure this out. Josh Allen's going to play his game, but he's not going to be on the field as much as Jared Goff's going to be on the field. And his O-line is going to control that line of scrimmage. I think we're going to run better than we did against Green Bay. Our run game was not what we have come to expect. Mm-hmm. So, I think controlling that line of scrimmage, having ball control, is how we win. We're not hitting 30s this time, man. We might be like a 28. They could be a 21. Sorry, Jake Bates. We love you. We're going to need you some other time. But, let's win this thing by a touchdown, and let's frustrate the Buffalo Bills. That's how I think you can win.
I like that a lot. I'm not exactly Karnak the Great over here, but I did predict the 34-31 game last week, and I also predicted Jake Bates would be kicking the game-winning field goal. Now, I did not predict they'd go for it 4th and 1 to get that, but I still, based on that game, based on the Bills game against the Rams, and based on the fact that I'm still not sure if they're going to get more than McNeil and Branch back for this one. Right now, I got to say Lions win, but I think 38-34. I think they'll win it. They won't need any last-second heroics, but I don't believe. But I think they're going to put enough. They're going to get that cushion in the first half, that 2-score cushion, and be able to maintain. And then it's going to be, who blinks in the second half. And I think they're going to trade off, and the Lions will be able to maintain an advantage. That's just how I see it. But, yeah, I can't pick against the Lions. Now, do I think this is a gimme? Oh, hell no. This is not a gimme. If the Lions don't play their A game, they will not win this game. So they've got to play their A game. But apples to apples, even with all the injuries on defense, I still think Jared Goff and company do enough damage. And I didn't mention Ed Oliver on that Bills team too, out in the middle there. They got a nice front seven. They have a talented secondary, there's no question. But I think the Lions need to establish the run early, because that will stop them from pinning their ears back going after Goff initially. And then that's going to open up the passing game. And let's face it, the Lions play action game is perhaps as intricate as any in the league right now. I mean, they were running wing T stuff. I wish Coach Shield was on here right now talking about wing T. He'd probably cry tears of joy. But that was wasn't that a beautiful run? And that was awesome. I was like, they did that? That is so cool. But it's not trickery as much. It's old school football. That's old school football. But bottom line, they got to control the clock. When Josh Allen, they're going to be down a couple scores going in the second half, I believe. And when Josh Allen gets the ball, they're going to start tuning it up, and they're going to have to be able to handle it. It's going to be tough to force punts for the Bills, because they're going to find a way to move the football. But again, I think they'll win this one 38-34. But I would rather see your scenario, Uper. I tell you what, I'd like to see a more controlled game, to be honest with you.
I'm predicting that for my own heart rate and sanity.
Okay. I like that. All right, I can take that. But let's hope we're talking about a 13-1 team next week. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for subscribing. By the way, we are on the ESEN network, and we are on every Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Check out the banner at the bottom there. We also are on Twitter X and on Facebook. Check us out there. We post our videos every week on those platforms. So anytime you want to see us, you can do so. For the Uper Brad Harrison, my name's Drew. Take care, everybody. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Check out that Roku channel as well, and we'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss an episode at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter X. Just look for @SportsP Podcast and follow us to keep up on sports around the great state of Michigan and beyond. You can also catch our show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESEN Network channel as part of Roku. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.